Welcome back, everyone, to day 4 of Performance Impact Week. I must admit, this week just keeps getting better and better, and I hope you're finding it the same way. Thank you so much to Sandra and Melanie for your sessions yesterday. That was really awesome. And thank you to all of you that joined us yesterday. Thank you for your engagement. Thank you for all your contributions in the chat. Please keep that up today as well. For you who are tuning in for the first time today, my name is Michel Wester. I am the CEO and co-founder of Noli, and I have the privilege of moderating Performance Impact Week. It is really cool to see all the sharing and all the discussions that are going on in social media and LinkedIn specifically. Please keep on doing that, and please use the hashtag PIV26 so we can keep on having these conversations and dialogues even outside of the event as well. We're now 3 days in. We started this week by talking about how to position ourselves towards the business, talked about involving and getting buy-in from the correct stakeholders. We then moved over to partnering with the business. How are we actually collaborating together with these stakeholders and creating something that really will do an impact? From that, we went over to designing for impact. How are we supporting and helping individuals to change behaviors? Today is all about how do we know that we're getting results from all of these activities? How do we know that we're actually creating change? Today's theme is about measuring what matters. The session and the structure of the session is just like before. It's divided into 3 different blocks. The first block is for our friend Vanessa, who I will be introducing shortly. The block after that is for Laura and Ryan. That will be our practitioners for the day. And then the last block is for our Q&A. So make sure that as soon as you have questions, thoughts, reflections that comes up, please make sure to share them in the chat that you will find just like before in the bottom right corner on your screen. Soon as questions, reflections come up, please do share them there. And my colleagues, like normal, they are in there moderating it. And make sure to say hi to them and make sure to give them some love like you've done before. With that said, I think it's time for us to introduce our first expert and speaker of the day. It's none other than Vanessa Alzate. She's the owner and CEO of Kirkpatrick Partners, which is the home for the Kirkpatrick Model. And if you've been anywhere near learning and development for the last 50 years, I think you are well aware of the model. She's today stewarding that model, and she has a brand new book coming out next month. It's called Building a Culture for Evaluation. You actually have a unique link. So if you scroll down some in your webpage right now below the stream, you will find a link to be able to pre-order that book already today. Make sure to check that out. Her session today has a title that I just love it. It's From Vanity Metrics to Performance Intelligence. Stop measuring what doesn't matter. And today, Vanessa is going to challenge us some. She's going to challenge us in a way that I think most of us need to hear, because she's going to challenge us in things that we've been doing for quite some time. And she's going to introduce what she calls enterprise performance intelligence, which is a smarter way of actually measuring what matters. With that said, I'm really happy to welcome on the stage Vanessa. Welcome.
Hi, how are you?
I
Thanks
am
for
good.
having me.
How are
I'm
you doing this top of the morning?
early morning. Yes.
Yeah.
Hi, Brent. I am usually on the East Coast, which
Yeah.
is a respectable hour. Today I'm on the West Coast. So I've been up since 2:30 in the morning, but I've got my coffee and there's no way I was going to not be here. So I appreciate it. Thank you, Michelle.
Amazing. You are the true Viking among us. I look forward to this. I have my popcorn ready, and the stage is yours, Vanessa.
Awesome. Thank you. All right, everyone. Thank you all for being here and for being so amazing and attentive throughout the entire week and catching the replay. Afterwards, if you can't catch us live, I really do appreciate it. And so many thanks to my partners at the Institute for Transfer Effectiveness, Noli and Travado, for being just incredible partners throughout this entire journey and through really what we've been doing here at Kirkpatrick. But let's get started. So dashboards are absolutely full, but yet leaders are still guessing. I want you to think about your own organization for a moment. You likely have dashboards, reports, analytics, tools, maybe even some AI layered on top of it. But if I asked you, do you have enough data? Some of you may say yes, and some of you may say no. But here's the actual real question that we need to be asking ourselves. Are your leaders more confident in their decisions because of your data? Or are they still asking, did it work? Should we keep investing? What do we do next? Because if they're still asking those questions, something is missing. So in the chat, just so everyone can get to know each other, drop a 1 if you feel like you have plenty of data, but drop a 2 if you feel like that data is also driving decisions. And while you all are doing that, this session is about closing that gap between vanity metrics to performance intelligence and giving you the full reveal of the brand new Kirkpatrick model. So let's start with a simple question. What are you currently reporting to leadership? Most teams report completion rates, attendance, or tushies in seats, like we like to call them, satisfaction scores, assessment results. And I want to be clear about this. None of those are necessarily wrong. They're just incomplete. When was the last time a completion rate changed a strategic decision? Not a conversation, but a decision. In the chat, so y'all can all get to know each other as well, drop one metric that your team reports on regularly. And if it is tushies and seats, I want to see tushies and seats in the chat. And as you look at those metrics, ask yourself, what decision do they actually influence? Because this is where we need to get honest. They are what I call vanity metrics. It's data that looks impressive, but it fails to inform action or really provide a ton of substance. And here's the part that we don't always say out loud. They make us feel good. They're easy to report, easy to improve, and we can easily control them. And that's the key. These are the metrics that we can control. We can control completion, attendance, satisfaction, test scores. And if you map that back to the Kirkpatrick model, that's levels 1 and 2. So it's not surprising that that's where most of our effort goes. But here's the problem. The metrics that we control are not the metrics leaders make decisions on. Vanity metrics answer what happened, but leaders are asking, what should we do next? We've optimized for what's easy to measure, not for what drives decisions. And in the chat, please, share what level are you most spending your time measuring? Level 1 reaction, level 2 learning, level 3 behavior, or level 4 results. These vanity metrics create a very real gap. We are reporting activity while leaders are making decisions about performance. And that gap, that's where our credibility is lost. So if vanity metrics aren't enough, what replaces them? And that's where we get to enterprise performance intelligence. See, I keep telling the team, and I've been saying this since the Kirkpatrick Summit, where maybe Performance Impact Week started to get a little bit of its first little seedling or idea. So I'm not going to take a ton of credit, but I got everybody in the room for this to happen. But evaluation is not the space in which the Kirkpatrick model is staying. We are not about being reactive or after the fact. We are about driving decisions. We're about driving performance and more about intelligence. And evaluation is out, and enterprise performance intelligence is what's in. See, this is not about having more data. It's about better use of that data. And the shift that we're making is from reporting to guiding decisions. Enterprise performance intelligence means your data can answer these three questions. What performance needs to change? What behaviors will drive that change? What evidence tells us we're on track early enough to adjust? Most organizations answer the first two. Where they struggle, though, is with that third question. Because we measure too late. Leaders, they don't need hindsight. They need direction. So why aren't we already doing this? It's because we tend to follow this cycle. We plan for a program or initiative. We deliver it. We move on because our plates are overfloweth with too many things to do. And by the time we're creeping towards what looks like probably the end of our program, or about the design of the program, we're already thinking about the next program. And then when the question of what was the impact, what was the ROI, what was the return comes up, we start to scramble and we panic. Because we didn't design for decisions. We designed for delivery. So if we want better decisions, we need a different system. And this is where the new Kirkpatrick model comes in. See, the Kirkpatrick model needs a little bit of a reframe. It's not a checklist, and it definitely does not start at level 1 to get to level 4. It's a decision system, and a system that understands training alone will never solve a problem. But training plus, like Melanie mentioned yesterday, right? Support from managers, planning for transfer, motivation, psychological safety. Training plus is whole, what we call a performance package that can actually then be measured and actually deliver results. So let's start at the top. Level 4 defines the decision. Performance, outcomes, impact. Now here's the shift, like I said. Training does not own results. It contributes to them. And our updated definition for level 4 is the degree to which targeted outcomes occur as a result of an experience or initiative and performance support. Performance support can look like things like job aids, checklists, coaching, ensuring policies and systems are up to date and supportive of the environment, ensuring that your managers are supportive of the environment. Again, it's this whole package. And we have all of those pieces in place, then we can drive those decisions. But how do we influence results? And that all happens, results change because behaviors change. See, behaviors is where decisions happen. Behavior is your earliest signs, earliest signals of success or failure. The definition for level 3 is the degree to which the target audience performs the critical behaviors in its environment and is supported in and accountable for its performance. And as part of level 3, we now have 3 components: the critical behavior, right? What do we actually need to do that is measurable and observable? Performance support. What are the things that reinforce what was learned, encourage, and reward those behaviors? And then lastly, the biggest change to the model, the performance environment. See, this is what actually determines if behavior actually changes. The environment is what makes or breaks impact. If people don't have time, tools, support, nothing changes. I mean, raise your hand if you've ever been part of a training, then you went back to work and they said, forget everything that you just learned. We don't do it like that here. That's not a training problem. That's a system problem. Now, the performance environment, the definition is the setting in which critical behaviors will be performed. It includes tangible factors such as opportunity to apply, access to resources, and managerial and peer support, as well as cultural elements such as motivation or drive, recognition, psychological safety, and organizational norms. You know, so often I hear from customers and they say, we put someone through training yesterday, but they're not going to actually do any of those things for another 6 months. I say, okay, what are we doing in between to reinforce that training or that behavior? And they're like, nothing. We don't have any sort of follow-up. See, that's an issue with the opportunity to apply. So that for me is a flag and something that I'm looking at now for design. How am I designing reinforcements in between 0 to 6 months? Because I don't know about you, but I don't remember what I ate last night for dinner, let alone something that I learned 6 months ago and have not looked at or picked back up. And we need to remember how the brain really works. And we need to practice in order to commit something to memory. That's one of the reasons that we love having tools like Noli to be able to help nudge folks after the fact and remind them of the things that they've learned and pull them back towards their goals, and be able to send out refreshers and reminders and things like that. But it truly takes a whole different way of designing to really think about that. Now, let's go to some of those lower levels that I know don't get as much love on the speaking circuit as levels 3 and 4. See, level 2 is the degree to which the target audience acquires the intended knowledge, skills, attitude, confidence, and commitment necessary to achieve targeted outcomes. But see, level 2 is not just learning. It's about capability and readiness. Will that target audience be ready to perform? Do they know it? Do they do it? Do they feel confident? Are they committed? Capability is necessary, but alone, not sufficient. If you've ever seen learning happen but no behavior change, I want you to drop a yes in the chat. And of course, before that, let's get to my beloved level 1, the one that gets the most criticisms and the most chatter. So level 1, see, it's not just about satisfaction. The most important pieces of it is that it's relevant and it answers this question: did the experience support the work that matters? Because engagement without relevance doesn't lead to performance. So the updated definition here is the degree to which the target audience finds an experience or initiative engaging, relevant, and supportive of the work needed to achieve the targeted outcomes. High engagement scores are great, but that can be influenced by so many things. I know your high engagement has been for this week has been because of all the amazing speakers, and of course also our amazing moderator who's kept you engaged. Have you ever had a facilitator that's just so amazing that, yeah, I really enjoyed that training? Did I use any of it? No, because it wasn't relevant to the work that I was doing, or, it just never transferred to behavior. But I really had a great time. And often there is research out there to say that those experiences that we didn't necessarily enjoy are some of the ones that taught us the most. So when you connect all of this, level 4 defines your decision. Level 3 shows progress. Your environment is going to explain what reality is. Level 2 is going to show readiness, and level 1 will show alignment. And now your data becomes insight. So if this model is so powerful, why aren't we doing this? And that's because most organizations are still reporting, not influencing. See, this is not a knowledge problem. It's an application problem, and ultimately becomes a maturity problem. A problem where our organization just is not necessarily ready to get to those higher levels. They're not ready to really put the processes in place to design for performance, to activate behavior. And that's why dashboards are full, but leaders are still guessing. And this is why we built the Learning Maturity Assessment, which is one of your links in today's resources. It shows you where you are, what's missing, and what to do next against these 5 domains: optimization and governance, strategic alignment, performance design, behavior activation, and measurement and evaluation. Because we saw so many people going through our programs, and yet they were doing great work, they had great capstones, but they were going back into their environment and it wasn't translating. And what I realized is we were part of the problem, and if you ever heard of this fish analogy, you could take your goldfish out of the dirty fish bowl, you clean it up, maybe you teach it some new tricks. But if you didn't clean the fish bowl and you drop it back in, of course the fish is going to get dirty again. If you don't encourage it to try out its new tricks, of course it's not going to remember any of those tricks and go back to the way things have always been done. See, we cannot take people out of the environment, teach them new things, but then put them back in the same environment that they were without adjusting so they can create those implement those new behaviors. It's why things like transformational leadership programs oftentimes fail. They go back to organizations that are not ready for transformation. Truly, your performance environment makes or breaks what is going to happen. But there is a trap in all of this, especially with enterprise performance intelligence, and I want you to be really, really aware of this. Many organizations try to solve this problem with tools alone. Vendors will say, we support all of the levels. But in fact, as someone that has looked at a lot of these tools, most tools will only collect surveys. They also have not come talk to us about aligning the updated models to their tools. The thing is, tools alone don't create insight. Systems do. So what can you do right now? Before you report anything, I want you to ask, what decision does this influence? What behavior does it reflect? And what would we do differently? If you can't answer all 3, you probably have a vanity metric in front of you. And if you're thinking, how can we do this consistently? That's why we built Caddy. See, Caddy is not another dashboard. It operationalizes performance design and thinking and supports your ability to then use the tools that you already have. It helps teams work backwards from results, defines behaviors, and aligns learning to performance. It even will give you a needs assessment that tells you, hey, that problem you're trying to solve, training alone won't solve it. However, here are some of the other issues in the environment that need to be solved as well. So our assessment will show you where you are, and Caddy will help you move forward. And go back for a second. I did want to share that all of this work, it is part of the new book that shares the new Kirkpatrick model. I actually have a copy. I finally have a copy with me. Just got the author copies. It is available starting May 12th, but it's all about building a culture of evaluation. And what I started to see as I was looking at organizations and doing some research on data-driven organizations that want to be data-driven, the problem with data-driven organizations is that everyone's definition of data is different. Everyone's definition of a lot of things are different. How even they measure is different. So if an organization is not running on the same evaluation or the same measurement model, how can we ensure data starts to align? We can actually collaborate. We can break out of silos. I'm sure you're not the only one that has unfortunately been the recipient of this comment. Why do you want my data? What are you going to do with it? Why are you looking at it? When you go to ask for some of that level 4 data to confirm results from the programs that you do. That to me says there's an alignment problem, there's no shared language, and there's no shared commitment to wanting to improve within the organization. And this book helps to map all of that for you. We also have a couple of other resources for you all. We've got the Kirkpatrick Collective. That's our online platform that has all of our certifications on it available in a blended format. And if you want to be part of the thing that started Performance Impact Week, we will be in Dallas in June and in Phoenix in October. Of course, you can catch me on the Kirkpatrick podcast every single week. And of course, you can also catch me on LinkedIn. So please do connect with me. I always love hearing from you all, and your all's challenges helps to influence the direction of the model and what the work that we do. Truly, this is the model that the industry built, and it is the model that the industry helps to inform and evolve. It is not just the brainchild of the Kirkpatricks or myself. It is built and updated and evolved based on all of you. I want you to remember this. Dashboards alone won't drive decisions. People do. And if your data isn't helping leaders decide what to do next, it's not performance intelligence. It's just reporting. And it's time that we move beyond that. Thank you.
No, we're the ones saying thank you, Vanessa. This was really, really nice. I've heard some of the parts before, but thank you so much for sharing all the updates that you've been doing and what you see is looking ahead as well. There are a lot of really cool tools that Vanessa mentioned that are below here. So all of the resources, if you just scroll down below the stream, you'll find all of those resources that Vanessa mentioned. Thank you so much for this. And thank you for the kind words. You're too kind. We'll now move from the model itself onto a practical case. And we're actually going to do something quite unusual, I'd say. We're going to go to a live case. This isn't just something where we'll show, look at this amazing things that we've done. It's all down. We know the results. We're actually going to get an insight into a live project. They're still evaluating all of the things that are happening and the effects that they're getting. And this case, a real one, is an ongoing project where they're measuring onboarding in a global retail chain. With us for our practitioners today, we have no other than Laura Kapstein. She's the Global Retail Training Director at RIMOWA. She has more than 15 years experience working with brands such as Chanel, Louis Vuitton, and Balenciaga. And she's always placed experience at the center of all her work, really making sure that we're driving change, creating new behaviors, and making sure that we're measuring the effect that we're getting from these activities. With her today, she has no other than Ryan with her. He's the founder of Travado, which is a platform that is specifically built to help L&D teams move beyond these smiling sheets that are evaluating trainings. They are helping L&D teams to actually measure training transfer and measuring what matters. I'm really looking forward to your conversation, Laura and Ryan. And with that said, I want to welcome you both to the stage.
Thank you. Hello,
How are
everyone.
you? How are you both
Thanks,
doing today?
Michelle. Yeah,
Good.
doing amazing.
Nice. The stage is yours. I'll go back to my popcorns, and I look forward to listening to your presentations.
Thanks.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, appreciate it, Michelle. Yeah, so I'm super excited to be here today, and I'm happy that we managed to create an event that focuses on the topic of performance and impact for an entire week. And like Michelle mentioned, basically what Laura and I are going to share with you today is it's an ongoing project. So it's a rare opportunity to kind of get a peek behind the scenes of something that's still happening. And we're going to transparently show kind of what we're doing with the goal that hopefully you can get a sense of this is a blueprint to apply to your own organization. So this whole topic around onboarding started with a conversation that, Laura, when did we have this conversation?
I think a little over a year ago already.
Yeah, so it's been a long time that we've been discussing. And I was sharing that during my previous job working at retail learning at Adidas, I noticed that the retail industry, it's really data driven. Like they keep track of their KPIs meticulously, their conversion rates, the NPSs, the UPTs, all that stuff. And one of the main challenges that retail faces is employee attrition. And a lot of those employees, they leave the company again in the first 90 days. And now obviously onboarding is there to kind of get people up to speed quickly, and also to kind of build that connection with the brand. But it's not something that I see a lot of companies like really focusing on in terms of evaluation to see, you know, is our onboarding actually succeeding? And like Vanessa mentioned before, it's usually a mix of completion rates. Like, have people actually gone through the onboarding? Have they completed our onboarding modules on the LMS? And then maybe there's a question around like, how much did you enjoy your onboarding experience? But that's pretty much the extent of it. Now, Laura, I know that you spent your career in luxury retail at a lot of different companies. So based on your experience, like, what can you tell us around onboarding in general and why it's so important, maybe especially in a retail environment?
Yeah, of course. I think one of the important factors to note, at least in my career so far, is that onboarding hasn't really evolved that much. It's always somewhat transactional and passive. And I think that now on LinkedIn, we're seeing a little more goodies being posted, but it's like the first couple of days is really the excitement, and then it kind of trickles downwards, and we don't really look at that. I think something that in retail is particular to our business is that we have people joining a store and they need to be operationally present, and luxury even more so, they need to be passionate. They need to have the savoir-faire, as we say in French, or the know-how to exude and embody what a brand in luxury, wants our staff to. And that's really hard to nail your first day. It's even harder to nail, your first week, because in the store environment, there's so much happening. You mentioned the KPIs, understanding the KPIs that are important, understanding the products, understanding the stock, understanding the tools, and how even more and more tools that are being placed in the hands of our staff, how to manipulate and manage them and understand them. So onboarding hasn't really changed, yet the environment really has. And I would add to the point too that in retail, in service industries, restaurants, hotels, since COVID, the talent pool has changed a lot. The landscape for these jobs has changed a lot, and we, I think, in these brands need to, of course, speak to those changes too, and that happens for me right from day one. So
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, perfect. And I mean, one of the risks that we talked about um, is attrition, right? So people leaving quickly. Um, what are some of the other negative effects that you see if onboarding isn't done properly?
Of of course, I mean, I think there's the above and below the iceberg. So the visible, like you mentioned, is losing people, losing potential talent, not having knowledge about why also we're losing
Hmm.
them.
Yeah.
And so having to kind of repeat just finding a replacement and kind of doing the same thing over and over again, and not speaking to that. So I think that's a visible cost. But then there's also the invisible, which for me is particularly important, is team dynamics, or Vanessa was mentioning too, psychological safety. The time that the manager and all of the team members, whether it's HR, retail directors, I mean, so many people are involved in recruiting someone. That's also additional work, responsibilities, time. And I think there's this ripple effect that's not always taken into consideration as much on the cost of a poor onboarding experience.
Yeah. Yeah. And I remember that you mentioned this in a conversation that we had, that it's a big difference, right? If in a, let's say, corporate office environment, you can take your time with onboarding, you can like sit at your computer, dabble a bit. I think those were exact words. But in retail, you don't have that luxury because you're face to face with the customer immediately, and your customer experience is going to suffer if those people don't receive a proper onboarding.
Absolutely. So I would say, especially in the world of luxury, it's so important that our people, obviously
Mhm.
our ambassadors, they represent the brand, they represent the maison, they represent so much of emotional connection for the brand, but also towards the client. And that is not necessarily visible for the client on day, or they don't know necessarily when they walk into a store that it's the day one of a new joiner. Some brands, and in my past too, we've tested kind of in training badges, but that doesn't always work because the client too deserves to be served. And sometimes, of course, is attentive that there's a learning curve for a new joiner, but still wants to have that same experience and that level of attention and emotional connection with the brand that's not always, um, yes, paused because there's a new joiner in front of them.
Yeah, yeah, good insight. And I ran the numbers basically just from some of the stats that I found. So average turnover in retail is around 60%, obviously across industries, not just luxury. Um, and McKinsey found that the cost of replacing a person that leaves is around $2,000 to $10,000. So if we take a fictitious company that has 10,000 retail employees, if 60% of them leave within a year, that means you have to replace 6,000 people. And even if we just take the conservative $2,000 as replacement costs, because recruiting, hiring, training those people, etc., um, you're spending $12 million a year, uh, basically replacing people. And so even if our onboarding can somehow improve that attrition rate just a little bit, like if we get it down from 60 to 55%, which would be amazing, that's $1 million in cost savings. And I think that's also something that L&D, when we talk to businesses also around like the importance of onboarding or the budget needed to invest into onboarding, like these are things that shouldn't be overlooked. Now,
Absolutely. Sorry, just
No,
to
go
jump
ahead.
on this.
Go ahead.
Obviously,
Yeah,
for luxury, the turnover rate is a lot lower, so we're very fortunate in this regard.
yeah.
However, that also means that we need to maintain, and we'll talk about this a little later, why the onboarding is so important too,
Mhm.
so that we can be operationally excellent as quickly as possible, and ensure that we're not losing this cost, or that the other team members aren't potentially compensating for loss, and then they become overwhelmed too, because that will have a decline on the customer experience ultimately as well. So the team dynamics is really key. And of course, everywhere, I would say specifically in luxury, the expectations are not the same compared to
Yeah.
most retail environments.
No, definitely, definitely. And so, um, you've been talking a bit about how luxury is a bit different. How can people listening, how can they imagine kind of an onboarding looking like? So let's say I was a new joiner joining RIMOWA, like what would my first, I don't know, 30, 60, 90 days look like?
Yeah. So RIMOWA is a beautiful maison that's over 125 years with wonderful history, manufacturing skills. So of course we incarnate these facts and these complexities as well, because we do sell not only, but mainly suitcases.
Mhm.
And so it's also a technical product. When you buy a suitcase, you need to, consider where you're traveling, the weight, which airline you're taking, what are you going to put inside of your suitcase. So there are a lot of technicalities. Every airline too, although the EU is working on this, but every airline has different rules and regulations for sizes. So there's these complexities that our sales teams need to be aware of. Then there's also so it's very operational. Then there's grooming standards. Then there's all of the clienteling, which is key. Then there's the sales elements to be aware of. So currently, or I would say up until last year, it's looked a little differently depending on where you were in the world of RIMOWA. So from region to region, of course, onboarding exists and always has. It has been, just a different experience from Asia Pacific to Japan, China, the Americas, and EMEA. And so this is something that we started to discuss too, of what do we want it to look like in a more consistent way, because there's all of these complexities, because there's these technical skills that we need to learn. We also conduct simple repairs, each of our client advisors too. So there's really kind of knowing how to present, how to demonstrate, how to embody the selling experience, and also handle a client whose suitcase may have had a problem. And so that's why it really looks different. It also looks different when you join, depending on the period of the year. If you join around the holidays in the winter, which may be the summer in the southern hemisphere, so the needs are different. So there are lots of things that impact the retail onboarding experience, and trying to make it more active and make it more phygital and make it more experiential is something that we're really keen on putting in place now, and that we've started.
Okay. So yeah, so I'm hearing that it's quite hard to create that consistency in terms of the onboarding experience, and also possibly even the visibility of what's the onboarding experience in this
E-
region versus this region, maybe which ones are having more success than others. Um,
Exactly. And to add, there are also many actors in onboarding. So there's
mhm,
HR, there's a store manager or store director, there's the retail director, there's the training manager. So we're fortunate to have training managers in most of the regions, support onboarding, yet there's also then your peers in the store that need to be involved. So there are lots of logistical kind of pieces of the puzzle to put together to make it smooth. And when it's inconsistent, it's really hard to see which piece of the puzzle is when.
yeah.
And for us in my team currently, we're only two people, so it makes it even harder to navigate what is the best practice, and what does success in onboarding look like.
Yeah. Yeah, that makes sense. And basically having that situation where you said there's a lot of different puzzle pieces that need to kind of fit together perfectly to create a superior onboarding experience. And it's very hard to understand kind of which of those pieces are fitting and which aren't in place yet. So I think that was also the basis of how this project got started, right? Because we were thinking about what if it were possible to see, in real time, what's happening across our onboarding in all our different locations in real time? And what if we could even at some stage predict maybe on day 14 or day 30, like, hey, who's maybe at risk of leaving the company or at risk of not receiving enough support in their first 90 days? Like, what if we had that information? And what can we do with that? And I think that's what we want to share with the group now is what does our blueprint look like that we've come up with in terms of evaluating that onboarding experience.
Yeah. And I don't know if you remember, but what did we actually start to want to measure, and what did we want to put into place to evaluate?
Yeah, I think we started with like, yeah, what's the onboarding even supposed to achieve? Like, why are we doing onboarding? And I think, like Vanessa mentioned, that's the place that you should start, right? You should understand the why behind the training program or initiative, and almost that level 4, level 3 in the Kirkpatrick framework. So, and once you have that, then it's around, okay, how can you design your evaluation so that you get that information, right? Because it's easy to start, and to be honest, like first instinct is always to go, okay, what questions maybe do I want to use in my surveys? And then you go add them one by one. But you actually have to think of, what do I want to see at the end? What decisions do I want to be able to make? And then based on that, I can define the questions that we're going to use. Um, and so, yeah, for RIMOWA, we had agreed that the things we want to look at is consistency of the onboarding experience, understanding, what opportunities are there still to improve the onboarding, and then the third one, which we just mentioned, is like identify if there are people at risk before it's maybe too late. So basically, what we ended up doing is it's an all survey based evaluation that checks in with people at different points in time. So this is the blueprint we're using. So there's check-ins day 1, day 7, 14. Then at the 30-day mark, we also pull in the manager's perspective. And then again, day 60 and 90, when typically the onboarding ends. And again, at the very end, we also get another manager opinion. Now, Laura, why did we pick those, I guess, those checkpoints throughout that
Yeah.
onboarding?
What we had up until this pilot too, and still what we do still have actually, is an evaluation post a kind of formal onboarding session. And that formal onboarding session is either done virtually, if it's not possible to do it face to face right away. There's also a digital component, but it was basically a snapshot after that kind of completion or presence in a session. We really started to think about, okay, what do I need to know in a store or a house like RIMOWA to be as operationally excellent as possible within 5 days, within the first week, within the first 2 weeks, 3 weeks, month, et cetera, et cetera. And so I think it allowed us to kind of put bite-sized nuggets and take stock of what we believe to be important at certain time frames. And that's why we built up this blueprint as is. It was really to take a temperature check after certain knowledge or skills are supposed to, or hopefully be done. So this is the hypothetical, not
Yeah.
done, but understood. And to have these check-ins verify that, as opposed to what we have been doing more traditionally is almost a knowledge dump, a skills dump, but that's really done on the job. And so was maybe verified through a checklist form that maybe is a little more heavy for the store manager, or sometimes incomplete, maybe not as agile as a tool. And here the idea was to really look at these moments in your onboarding and try to dissect what is important or what's happening from moment to moment so that we can be more reactive in a proactive way on trying to find solutions to turn the onboarding experience away, as opposed to just do the final check-in perhaps 3 months in and not know what happened in that 90-day period.
Yeah. Yeah. And I like what you said about the different points in time have a different focus. So that's what we also try to reflect with those check-ins. So they're purposely kept super short, so no longer than 5 minutes per check-in.
Even like 2 minutes.
Yeah, exactly. Because obviously people, especially in retail, they don't have a lot of time. So yeah, I think some of the examples are at the beginning, support, psychological safety are super important. And then as you get more towards that 30-day mark, maybe competency and being able to perform those operational tasks becomes more important. And then obviously towards the end, it's around, okay, by this time they'll be able to reflect on their entire onboarding experience and be able to give some suggestions on this could be improved, this was super helpful. And we have 2 manager check-ins included as well. Laura, why did you feel that would be a very good addition to include?
I think it's key to have a dual perspective. It's also important that we chose 30 days because that allows the store manager to be able to observe, to be able to have some more facts build up and some of their own personal data sets through these different observations or conversations that they may have had with their new team member. And it allows to take stock again of what's happened in those 30 days, to reflect just a more in a more posed manner. And that's really important to have that check-in, in our opinion, to
Yeah.
together.
Yeah, no, I agree. And I think Melanie talked about it 2 days ago, how important in general managers' involvement is in any training initiative to secure, learning transfer after the program ends. And I read a statistic somewhere that if managers are actively involved in onboarding, um, it's also three to four times more likely that new joiners will describe their onboarding experience as exceptional. So I think they do
Absolutely.
play a pivotal role.
And that was key for us as well here, is that managers too that provide that safe space, that psychological safety, whether it's for feedback, whether it's for just questioning, check-ins with their team members, if they do that from the get-go, that's a win-win. And if they do that in a manner that's also constructed or structured, I should say, this is one of the goals of this as well, is to be able to guide managers, not sharing, it's anonymous, but sharing insights on what is a new joiner needing. Is it support? Is it operational help? Is it psychological safety? Is it that they're feeling overwhelmed? And maybe a manager wouldn't have asked those specific questions if they don't have such a tool with, the insights that are provided through Travato.
No, great. And I think due to time, I'm just going to go through like maybe rapid fire a set of 3, 4 practical tips that people can use if they want to evaluate their onboarding experience. So first, I would say is welcome email. The reason that we included this was, first of all, to let people know, hey, we're going to be checking in with you throughout your onboarding, so it's not a surprise. And I'd also recommend, positioning it as not, hey, we're evaluating onboarding, but this is to support you and make sure that you have everything that you need, and for us to know how we can better support you throughout that whole experience. We included some more competency type questions on day 14 and 30, so that we're later able to see, hey, by day 14, what are people able to do? By day 30, what are people able to do? To see if that, that tracks with what we're trying to achieve with our onboarding. We already talked about the manager check-ins and how pivotal those are. And it's funny that it always adds that layer of accountability, where if managers have to fill something out where they get asked like, hey, I've supported my new joiner. I've had a check-in conversation with my new joiner that acts as an additional trigger or reminder, like, yeah, I should probably be doing that. I don't want to say no to that question when I get asked. And so maybe one final question before we get to probably the most interesting piece of what insights we will get out of taking this approach. But why do you feel a lot of companies aren't looking at this in this level of detail? Like, what are the main challenges that you've also faced up until now? Would you say?
Just human capital, taking the time, having the people, the resources. Vanessa mentioned too, it's looking at the system. It's not looking at something that's just usually very operational. We want to accelerate speed to job proficiency really quickly. We're asking kind of more macro level questions too. And I think that takes maturity too. I think it's also in 2026. This is more of the conversation companies and organizations are happening or are having. So we're able to do this too as well now, thanks to a tool like Travato. And I think that it's also just in the regions when you're doing it, you're much more operational. And so if someone has to do it, it needs to be done in HQ. And I think sometimes we just don't have the time, the resources. Sometimes it's also in HR. So, we're maybe multiple parties working on this onboarding outcome without asking all of the same questions or wanting the same results from it.
Yeah. Interesting. That matches with a lot of the challenges that I keep hearing from customers and potential customers. It's a lot to do with bandwidth, not having the time or the resources to necessarily do all the things the way that you would ideally like to be able to do it. If we're thinking about this, like just alone, like sending out all the surveys, checking that people answer those types of things, it becomes very manual very quickly. I think, and the whole point that we're doing all of this is kind of what are the insights that we're getting out of it. And on the left-hand side, I've just listed kind of all the different questions that we're going to be able to answer based on the approach that we're taking. I'm not going to go through all of them. Maybe just the first four as some examples. But if we take a look at the first one, which is also this graph, it's around this day 14, day 30 skill readiness. Like, what are people confident they're able to do by this day and this day to see, okay, is there maybe something that we need to highlight a little bit more in the onboarding experience? Another interesting thing is because we have the manager perspective, we can compare, right, between employee and manager perception. For example, do new joiners feel like they're being supported by managers, and how does that compare to how managers feel like they're supporting their people? And if there's a big discrepancy, that's maybe an issue to address. And then one added benefit of having a lot of different checkpoints is if you use the same consistent questions, you can start seeing trends. So for example, I think we used a question in there, Laura, right? Like, how proud are you to work for RIMOWA, and do you see yourself still working here in 6 months? And you can track that trajectory over the full 90 days to see, is there a point in time where maybe this drops off a little bit and where you might need to reinforce? Now, I don't think I've ever asked you this, but out of all of these insights that you're going to be able to generate, like which is the one that you're most interested in?
It's a tough question because they're all so insightful and resourceful. As we did talk, though, this is a long-term project. Of course, we're just in a pilot phase, but I would definitely say the trends, because I think as an organization, if we know at what point kind of that honeymoon phase starts ending, we can better reinforce. Of course, there's the 30, 60, 90-day model we all know. But over time, what is the element that can reconnect and to be more proactive? I think that's going to be really very helpful for us.
Okay. Yeah, perfect. And last question before I guess we hand back over to Michelle is, people are watching and they want to, start evaluating their own onboarding. What's the most important thing that they should get right?
Contact you because you have the right tool. So a little sponsorship there. I'm not getting paid.
That's not
But
what
really,
I was hinting at, but I'll take it.
no, I know. I think it's really about the system. I mean, Vanessa mentioned this early. What as training is systemic. It has to be part of the brand culture. We all know the Peter Drucker culture eat strategy for breakfast. So we can have everything in place if it's not, if we don't know what it is we really want to achieve, then I think it's a loss. And if onboarding is meant to just be an operational task training, then we will lose all of the retention, the support, maybe understanding those other elements that are invisible and maybe more implicit and more difficult to train on. So yeah, that's in a
Perfect.
nutshell. I would say start with what is it as an organization you really want to bring home for your people and your talent, and that's your human capital is what's the most important for any organization.
Yeah, 100% agree. And it's not rocket science, right? If we break this down, essentially it's a set of surveys with different survey questions in it, and that's it. Like it's not overly complex, so really anybody can do this. Yeah, with that, Laura, thank you so much for joining. It's been a pleasure. And Michelle, I
Thank
guess I'll hand
you.
back over to you.
I wish you weren't. I've enjoyed this a lot, and I wish we could just keep this going. This has been really great. Thank you, Laura, so much for all the generous contributions and for your sharing everything that has been happening throughout these pilot. And thank you for the guidance in that conversation, Ryan. This was really, really nice. We will now open up for the Q&A. We've gotten a bunch of great questions. Before I do that, I just want to mention that we are opening up the breakout rooms as well. If you want to go out there, if you want to network with peers and discuss the questions and the things that have been presented in the sessions, please join them. We'll keep them open for an additional hour. So if you want to go there right now and meet others and discuss the Q&A, please do. If you want to stay in the stream right now and be with us, you can join them throughout and join it in 30 minutes, and it will still be open. We have gotten a bunch of questions. I want to make sure that you all get to pose questions to each others as well. I want to kick it off with a question for you, Vanessa. This is around the fact that we still have quite a few managers that are expecting these vanity metrics. So how do we tackle that culture change? Like,
Yeah.
how do we actually how do we create a pull from managers wanting other things than vanity metrics? Could you
Yeah,
explore some of that?
yeah, absolutely. Great question. I think we have to do some of the work of managing up and influencing and starting to make some of giving those educational moments and opportunities. And I did see in the chat was, you know, they ask for these metrics, they think everything is fine, and then a few weeks later, they're like, wait, it's not actually working, right? And so it's, you know, what's that definition of insanity, right? Doing the same thing over and over again. And sometimes it's being able to have a conversation and saying, okay, we're back here having the same conversation of you thought everything was great because these were the only things that you really cared about. And now but you're still actually asking the question of, did it work? Right. And so I think that we need to, you can provide it. I don't say never say don't provide it. I think it's about, are you waiting for permission to do level 3 and 4? And if you're waiting for permission, then that permission may never come. And sometimes we need to take something really small, do it ourselves, try it, get a little bit of that incident and look at what's possible before trying to change an entire culture. So take on something that you can really handle, that you can get your arms around, you can get some of that buy-in. Maybe you don't even need a ton of buy-in, right? You can just go and do and look at what we've been able to accomplish because we're able to report on these other metrics.
So basically, well, supply them with the vanity metrics, but also make sure they're getting other data that you know are beneficial for them.
Yeah,
Like
sometimes they just don't know any better, right? We also have to understand they don't live, eat, sleep, breathe learning and development and human capital and all of those things, right? We do. And
Yeah.
so this is that constant push-pull of learning language versus business language, and they only know what they know, right?
Yeah.
And that's why sometimes people will say, "Oh, we do the same type of training over and over and over again." And it's like, because that's all they know. They might not realize there's other ways to provide that same insight, to provide that to solve that same problem in a different way. They only know what they know, and they actually sometimes think they're being helpful by saying, "Oh, let's do a training," right? So those are just some of the things that kind of pop into my head. And again, it's just about managing up and trying to do what you can to create some of that proof to then spread a little bit more widely.
Yeah. Laura, if we're looking at your stakeholders, what kind of data have tickled their interest? What have they asked you? Have you received like a poll from their side? Or if I start with the first question instead of posting four at once, what kind of data have they looked for? What questions have you gotten from your stakeholders?
Yeah, so as Vanessa mentioned early in her presentation, it's been mainly completion rates. It's been looking at hours, attendance, making sure that the store managers, these checklists are basically complete with a yes.
Yeah.
And to what Vanessa was just sharing, I think right now our goal in putting this type of evaluation forward is to just do a small pool of testing to see what the reaction will be, to show that there's another way, to bring more awareness, to look at onboarding, with just a different perspective. So it's more, say sorry than ask for permission, and taking the accountability of saying that anything with training is dealing with people. And we don't learn all the same way. We don't learn even more now. Our minds are just pulled in so many different directions that the data sets just don't speak to those directions. And that's what we're trying to look at with Travato 2.0.
Cool. Have you noticed any change, any initial nudges or initial first moving parts from the stakeholders and actually,
It's
oh, cool that we're getting
Absolutely.
this.
I think every
Nice.
single one of our managing directors or our leaderships wants a successful onboarding. We want our people to be proud. We want
Yeah.
them to be ambassadors and stay ambassadors, of course. We want our clients, which are the retail teams, to embody that so that then also our end clients feel this reciprocity and this attention, symmetrical attentions and mirroring effect. And that's something that's really important and absolutely has um, been discussed with all of the leadership because they want to see their people happy in their teams and their regions.
That is cool. Because at the end of the day, that's what we want. That is the end goal of this.
Yeah,
Um,
we.
yeah, sorry, Lauren. So we got some more questions around engagement rates. If you're willing to share here, where have the engagement rates been in the activities, and what have you done to drive engagement rates in the activities?
I don't know if Ryan, you want to chime in on this one.
Sure,
It's
sure. Yeah. So we're still pretty early on, so it's hard to say versus um, let's say traditional ways, but I think um, there's a few different things that we've tried to do. So one is involve the regional training managers so that they're aware, because obviously they're not involved operationally. They don't need to do anything as part of evaluating this onboarding, but it's good to have them be informed because they're in direct contact with the stores and the store managers, so they can already like they've talked to the store managers and said, hey, this is what we're doing. Are you interested? A lot of the store managers said, yeah, of course. I want to know kind of how the onboarding is going for my people. And then I think the second one is it's an operational thing, right? So if you can, number one, set it up so that it's all automated, so you don't have to spend any time remembering that you need to send stuff out, so that there's consistency with that. And then second of all, what we're doing is we've added automated reminders as well, so that if someone, let's say they don't see the email or they forget about it after they see it once, that they get reminded, and that should drastically increase the response rates as well. So I think that combination of the technical aspect as well as the human aspect, that should really drive the engagement versus, let's say, traditional response rates, but we will see.
Yeah, and to rebound too, we wanted everyone to feel that they are an actor in their own onboarding journey. And it's also bottom up. It's not just top down from HQ or from the region or your store telling you what to do or what you need to know at what point in time. I think the kind of the curve that we took, or the approach that we took, was to say, by completing these evaluations, by participating actively, you're helping change happen, you're helping your own engagement, you're helping all of us collectively, and collective intelligence is, you know, the best kind of tool we can benefit from, is to you know, be a sponsor of this. And I think that's definitely a new take too, as just a versus a passive approach to filling out a, you know, evaluation form and just saying, you know, everything's great, like Vanessa was sharing earlier too. We know those ones.
Exactly. Vanessa, I saw you when Laura and Ryan mentioned the importance of starting with why. I saw you
Yeah.
nodding heavily along. Do you wanna
Well, I think there's a couple of things based on what they just shared that I want to touch on.
Yes, I'd love that.
One is my obsession with the automation in Travado 2.0. Ryan will probably laugh when I say that, because that was like the most exciting thing when I saw when we were starting to build. I was like, this is what I want it to look like, and this is what it needs to do. Because it needs to be like a crock pot where you set it and forget it. That way we have so many things to do, right? And so I'm obsessed with that part of Travado and the ability to do that, because I think it takes a lot of work off of our plates and takes a lot of the excuses off of, okay, well, we can't do this. You know, we can't do the Kirkpatrick model in the right way to fidelity because of those things, right? When we now do have the tools to be able to do that. The other thing that I wanted to also share was, you know, I love, Laura, what you said about, you know, we're doing this with onboarding because we wanted to show proof of what can be different, how things could be different. And I see a lot on LinkedIn and the conferences, you know, don't be an order taker, be a strategic partner. Here are the ways to do it. Here are the tips, like all of these things, or people saying, I don't want to be an order taker. I don't want to do these things. We have to start giving our executives different data. Why wouldn't they say, well, just do, you know, you're telling me everything was great. Why are you going to do anything different? We don't fix things that aren't broken, because we're not actually showing them that it is broken for fear of it turning around and looking bad on us. And I can share, I don't think that, I don't think you should necessarily have that full fear, because I think you can sit here and say, look, we all know it's not working. We actually all know. We might not talk about it, but we know the way that we've been doing things is not actually working. It's like, but out of the list of things I know that is what you have to do, that's probably on the bottom of your list to really think about until it's budget time. And then you cut my budget because you're like, well, it's not really working, so we must not need as much, right? So I think we have to have those open and honest conversations, but then also say, but here are some recommendations of some ways that we can do things differently. Like, let's just try it with something small and get some of that proof. And that's so those, like, so when I say manage up or things like that, that's what I mean, right? Is we have to also be honest, have that, you know, bring everyone around the table, like we say, sometimes say, come to Jesus, and have that conversation, and not be afraid always of it. I also understand that I come from a place of privilege on that. So, you know, you might not have the psychological safety in order to do that. So, but in terms of starting with the why, I think that we don't spend enough time really understanding why. And it's something that was brought up yesterday in Melanie's session about being obsessed with the problem and not the solution. It's something that I write in the book, right? There's a quote that they say Albert Einstein said, that he said, if you gave me 55 minutes, I'd spend 50 minutes on the problem and 5 minutes on the solution. We spend 5 minutes on the problem and 55 minutes or 50 minutes on the solution. And we saw that at the Kirkpatrick Summit. And at one point I had to say to the team when we're doing our design workshop, y'all have to stop. You're not spending enough time on the problem and you're about to design solutions that don't address the problems. And I'm watching it happen in real time and we all should know better. And so it's just about that uncomfortableness of having to really dig a little bit deeper, but we want to be performance consultants and that is the work. Right? It's not about designing the performance solution all the time. It's about actually doing the work of understanding the problem.
And I totally agree with you. I think that a lot of people are struggling with the fact that you were mentioning right now. We have to stay in the problem space because, to be honest, it's quite hard to be in problem space. It hurts. Like,
Yeah.
you want to move into solution space. Like, there's unicorns, there's a lot more brighter colors. It's nice being solution space. It's not nice being in problem space. And that bridge my question over to you, Lauren, and Ryan. How did you? Because my feeling is that you really succeeded in staying in problem space. So how did you help yourself actually to stay there?
For a year, we've stayed in this problem, so it's taken a long time. I mean, I think we mentioned when issues are systemic, you need to look at the problem because it's really the below the surface issue. And I think that taking the time, I'm not saying taking the time in terms of a year, that was just how it happened. And I think the time that the right tool came out was able to uh, could have sped up this problem talking, but I think um, trying to figure out exactly, is it even a problem of training? Is it a problem of management? Is it a problem of team dynamics? Is it a problem of just time? What is the problem? And kind of having all of these hypotheticals and cross-checking them with, well, I don't know, maybe it's not that one, maybe it's not this one. So it does require a certain level of comfort to be in that space for me, and I think for Ryan, it's necessary because we're trying to find purpose in our evaluations, and to find purpose is a completion rate doesn't tell me anything. It just tells me that, you know, the training manager and the participant both had a transactional moment together. It doesn't tell me that that learner is able to understand either the concept or the knowledge. It doesn't tell me that that learner is able to put a skill forward or reinforce that skill, or maybe put that skill back to bring it back to the forefront if it has been forgotten. And I think that those are the questions that we've really asked each other for at least this project, but there are other projects that we talk about too. It's not uncomfortable to actually look at the problem because it becomes something that the elephant's out there and we're kind of just naming it, putting up on the table, and then the solutions come more quickly. And then actually the results and performance become a lot more optimal. And so I think it's just being, taking a little more time in the beginning to ask really what is the problem that we want to address, as opposed to find the solution and then 6 months later say, oh, yep, we're not as performant in that as we want. Let's modify a slide or whatever it may be. But I'll let Ryan join.
Yeah. So you asked how we're able to stay in the problem phase for so long. I would say, like you said, Laura, we're still in the problem phase. Like, I would be very surprised if an evaluation like this shows that everything is running perfectly, right? There's bound to be certain areas that are working better than others. So I think it requires a certain level of braveness, if that's a word, to be able to say, okay, I actually want to take a look at this. I want to see the truth. I don't just want to, see the good parts and delete all the negative aspects. And I think if we're being honest, like the things that we're going to identify as opportunities might be things that down on a store level, people are already aware of. It's basically just highlighting the different opportunities that are there so that, we can then identify and prioritize and say like, hey, this is actually really important. Like, let's focus on this. And then it's like I like to talk from a startup perspective, but it's like with creating software, right? It's iterative. So you do something, you test, you see, and you see, okay, we can improve this. We'll go again. Okay, now we can improve this. And it's a gradual process. And that's honestly how I see training programs being able to be improved, because you're not going to get it right the first shot. And also the environment is constantly changing, right? I think, Laura, you mentioned this at the beginning of the talk, that especially since COVID, like things have changed a lot. So maybe there are certain things that need to be adapted as well. And so we're still very much in the problem phase, but I don't see that as a negative.
None at all. And I think all of us working within this field need to become more comfortable in well, both staying in problem space, but then also realizing what you just said, Ryan, that this is a back and forth. Like, it's not like finally we get to leave problem space and now we'll stay eternity in solution space. It's actually dipping your toe into the solution space, realizing, hey, we should probably come back to problem space again and spend some more time there. This is a constant back and forth.
Yeah, and don't get me wrong. So like that's only one side of the thing. The other side, right, is to also be able to prove the things that are going well with data,
Yeah.
so that the leaders they can see this black on white, and there's not even discussion needed about it.
Yeah, that's actually a Kirkpatrick foundational principle, right? Is that you're constantly evaluating and that it's iterative and that you're not just necessarily reporting on problems, but you're pulling what's working so then you can learn more about it and apply it to other areas, right? To speed up learning in other areas. But to Laura's point, conditions will always change. The environment is always going to change. New managers are going to be promoted. The market is going to shift, right? So many things will happen in an organization that is going to affect whether or not something is going to work. So setting up evaluation, just understanding we're always going to be checking these things, doesn't mean you're going to be as, maybe as deep into it as maybe an initial or like a yearly check or something like that. But when you have it set up and you have it running, providing you with those insights, it becomes a lot more manageable because you're not doing as deep of a dive every single time.
Circling back to what Melanie was talking about yesterday about the importance of these first baby steps, doing something little to create change. If we start with, well, if we have the situation of feeling that probably we're mainly doing vanity metrics today, what could be my first small little step that I could take, Vanessa, to start moving in a direction where I'm not only doing vanity metrics anymore?
Yeah, I think it's certainly understanding the why and that level 4 result that we're trying to uncover or work towards, and spending a little bit of time with that. And then the second thing is really getting clear on the behaviors needed in order for those outcomes to occur, and ensuring that they're measurable and observable, and everything, even soft skills, can be broken down to be measurable and observable. It is a little bit more complicated, a little bit harder, but we know when someone is able to have a crucial conversation. We know when someone is empathetic, right? It's sometimes hard to put into words, but when we sit down and we actually do the work of defining that, then you can design the right training and the right learning solution to do that. And then the last thing I would say is stop using the word understands in your learning objective, because it's not measurable or observable. So just take that one right out.
That's a good one. I started asking 2 questions yesterday that I kind of liked, and I want to post them to you as well. We have a lot of listeners with us right now, and I'll direct this question to each one of you. But how can listeners find you after this event? Where should they stay to find you, and how can listeners be helpful to you? If I start with you, Vanessa, where can they find you, and how can they be helpful to you?
All over the world. I'm traveling a lot lately. So LinkedIn is the best place to get in touch with me, and to stay connected with Kirkpatrick Partners on our LinkedIn page is the best way to do that. And I would say just continue sharing what your challenges are, because it only fuels our team to provide additional solutions or just have better understanding. And when we're doing presentations and things like that, it makes it a lot easier for us to provide what people want. And if you will be at ATD in LA next month, myself, Ryan, and Melanie will be there. So come say hi to us in person. I am a lot shorter than I appear on screen.
Love that. I just pre-ordered your book as well, so I'm going to throw in that you should check out Vanessa's book as
Oh,
well.
yeah. That was really bad of me not to plug my own book, but thank you.
That's what I'm here for. Laura, same thing for you. Where do you find you, and how can listeners be helpful?
Yes, I mean, same LinkedIn. I think that's the easiest and most optimal resource for everyone out there. And then, depending on the conversation, see from that point on. I am based in Paris, France, but do travel a lot as well. I would say go visit a RIMOWA store if there is one near you, because it's a really special experience. Um, and yeah, LinkedIn in short.
Perfect. Thanks, Laura. Ryan?
Yeah, so similar. So you can please connect with me on LinkedIn. Always happy to expand my network there. As Vanessa mentioned, I'll be in Karlsruhe at LearnTech in 2 weeks, and then towards the middle end of May in LA for ATD. So if you're there, let me know. We can catch up. Yeah, otherwise, if evaluation is becoming more of a priority for you and you feel you need more support in either, understanding what to measure, or you don't have the bandwidth and want to find a way, to do this with the least amount of manual effort possible, or you need support in analyzing those insights and telling that impact story, then feel free to get in touch. You can schedule a call or email me, and yeah, we can see whether Travato can possibly help you with that. And also, if you have a similar use case to what Laura and I shared today, and you want the blueprint kind of that we use to come up with this, so basically all the surveys, all the questions, the scales and stuff like that, email me. I'm happy to share that with you as well.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Ryan. I want to remind everyone about the breakout rooms to continue the discussions and the dialogue. I want to say thank you to all of you. Thank you, Vanessa, for really making us understand what's important to measure and what's not. Thank you, Laura and Ryan, for a really honest conversation and for reminding us about the importance of why. Before we leave, a couple of pointers. I've mentioned them before. In a few moments, you will receive the recording from the session. If you haven't had time to send it to a colleague, or if you know a colleague that haven't been able to attend, please share it with them. Please keep on having the conversation and the dialogues about the importance of measuring what matters and all of the other topics that we've discussed during Performance Impact Week. Please continue to share it on social media and LinkedIn. Please use the hashtag PIV26, and please add any of us as well so we can more swiftly jump onto those conversations as well. I want to remind everyone about all the resources that you find below. It's Vanessa's book. It's a manifest from Noli about how we're actually creating this shift from being an order taker to be a strategic partner. I think you're going to like that. So check out that manifest. Check out the resources that Ryan just mentioned from Travato. And tomorrow will be somewhat different from previous days. Tomorrow we won't have 2 sessions, but instead we'll have a 60-minute panel discussion about the future of AI and impact. We have been looking at what's important for us to do now, but of course, we need to try to look ahead as well. What's coming? How will AI actually influence all of these work that we're doing? We have 4 brilliant minds on our stage tomorrow. It's Josh Cavalier, it's Margaret Spencer, it's Rahim Samij, and it's Peter Karsveli from Swedish Broadcasting. I don't think you want to miss tomorrow, and I really like what we've done together with this panel discussion. It's the same link, it's the same time as today. I wish you all a really great rest of the day, and I look forward to seeing you all tomorrow. Have a good one.